they talking real loud, spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. With my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. With my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your Daily Vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so let's see who is in here. All right, Sheila is here. G from the land. CMO828 is here. Nicole. All right, let's get into it. Everybody hit that like button. Okay, Bronze Flat Power God. My Two Loves. Michael is here. 504 Nola. All right, Desmond. Shout out to my moderators for putting in work. And shout out to all of my lower royals and everyone tuned into the Queen. Now, before we get started, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, hey, we the people. Okay, Cherokee Descendant Dale is in the house. Let's get into it because, honey, Trump is burning this country down. All right, slowly but surely. Now, let's go to this press conference that he held where he talked about the crime in D.C., and I believe it was a lot of lies and BS, okay, because the mayor says otherwise. And if you all remember, it was just last week that I reported to you how Trump was saying that the guy from Doge got jumped. And he said that was the reason he was going to deploy the National Guard. And but now he has all these other reasons. And I want y'all to hear what he had to say because it was all interesting. Okay, Trump lies through his teeth, honey. Trump is, in fact, the emperor's new clothes. Okay, for those of you who know that story, it's exactly who Trump is.
Will be directly involved with that. But we're going to put it in control very quickly like we did on the southern border. I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse.
Now, did you guys hear that? Did y'all hear that? He said he's going to rescue our nation's crime from bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor. Ah. Did y'all hear that? You're not late, Claudette. We're just getting started. The only thing you missed was the introduction in my sponsor video. But did y'all hear that? Bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor. I haven't heard anyone use the word bedlam in a long time, but let's keep listening because this man is a whole fool. Please pay attention.
This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that.
Interestingly enough, he talks about taking back the Capitol, but he didn't have that same energy when those hoodlums, those domestic terrorists, those thugs, those insurrectionists that he sent when they, in fact, rioted at the Capitol, okay? And he pardoned those people. So now he wants to talk about being tough on crime in D.C. Well, he should have done that then, but let's continue.
Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening. They've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly. And you people are victims of it, too. You know, you're reporters, and I understand a lot of you tend to be on the liberal side, but you don't want to get mugged and raped and shot and killed. And you all know people and friends of yours that happened. And so you can be anything you want, but you want to have safety in the streets. You want to be able to leave your apartment or your house where you live and feel safe and go into a store to buy a newspaper or buy something. And you don't have that now. The murder rate in Washington today is higher than that of Bogota, Colombia, Mexico City, some of the places that you hear about as being the worst places on earth, much higher.
Now, y'all know this is a lie, right? He's saying that the crime in Washington, D.C. is worse than Mexico. Wasn't he the one that just talked about having a discussion with a Mexican president just days ago, mind you, saying that he wanted to deploy the military, offering his services to Mexico to fight the rug cartels? But now Washington is worse? Do they have cartels in Washington? But let's keep listening.
Is much higher. The number of car thefts has doubled over the past 5 years, and the number of carjackings has more than tripled. Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years. Can't be worse. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it.
Now, everything that he just said is applicable to the thugs who raided the Capitol January the 6th. But those people, he freed them.
Yeah, just like we did on our southern border. Nobody comes to our southern border anymore. 3 months in a row, we had zero. I don't know if that's right, but the people that do the work, it's a very liberal group of people, actually, and they actually said zero for the last 3 months. Nobody thought a thing like that was possible. And, you know, when you say take a look at numbers, I just saw some.
Hold on. You mean to tell me for 3 whole months, not one single person tried to cross the southern border? Not one? Y'all don't believe that, right? I know y'all don't believe that, but let's continue.
Charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is, okay. The red is a place called Washington, D.C. Look at these. Baghdad is, we doubled up on Baghdad. Panama City, Brasilia, San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Mexico City, I mentioned, Lima, Peru, all double and triple what they are. So do you want to live in places like that? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think the people in this room, if you wrote correctly, you'd see, look at the kind of numbers we have. DC.
You know what I would ask him if I were one of those reporters who's sitting there listening to all the lies and BS? I would ask him, so President Trump, are you saying, let's be clear, are you admitting that in fact the United States is a shithole country? Okay, that's what I would ask him, because isn't that what he said about Haiti? Okay, isn't that what he said? I would ask him, so are you officially saying that America is officially a shithole country? Okay, because that's what it sounds like from what he's saying. These are his words.
41 per 100,000, number one that we can find anywhere in the world. Other cities are pretty bad, but they're not as bad as that. Is that where you want to live? The reporters of the world? Juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. It's getting worse. Not getting better, it's getting worse. And we had a recent indication. There was a story about a man who was just left. He quit because he was asked to do phony numbers on crime. And we're going to look into that. I think Pam is going to be looking into that. But he was asked by the city, I guess, that we don't want to show the real numbers. Let me do numbers so it looks like it's going down. Not going down. And under Biden, it was a disaster. And nobody did anything about it. We're going to do things about it like you wouldn't believe. Every American has a constitutional right to be able to access and petition their government in safety, and countless federal officials and employees likewise have the right to carry out their jobs in peace without being shot. As you know, I lost a very good person a while ago, was shot waiting for his wife. He was in the car. They robbed his car. They shot him. They killed him like it was nothing to it. She was walking to the car. It's a horror show.
I don't believe him. Do y'all hear this story he just told? He said he knew a guy. He was a good guy. He was sitting in his car. His wife was walking to the car. They killed him. It was a horror show. Now, that may have happened, but I doubt he knew the person. Okay, don't you think that if somebody that Trump knew and was so close with and that happened to them, that he'd have been said something about it? I don't believe him. Okay, this is a liar who lies, but let's keep listening.
This issue directly impacts the functioning of the federal government and is a threat to America, really. It's a threat to our country. We have other cities also that are bad, very bad. You look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with DC, and we're going to clean it up real quick, very quickly, as they say. Days ago, a former member of the DOJ staff was savagely beaten by a band of roving thugs after defending a young woman from an attempted carjacking. He was left dripping in blood. He thought he was dead with a broken nose and concussion. Can't believe that he's alive. He can't believe it.
He thought he was dead. Did you all hear what he just said? He said he had a broken nose and he thought he was dead. So the man thought he was dead. He didn't know he was still living. And he had a broken nose. And a concussion. But the man thought he was dead. Trump, please sit down somewhere. I just want y'all to listen to this foolishness. And Nicole said, your toupee is a threat to our country. Okay, Trump is officially wig number 5. Okay, where are we on the wigs list? Let me see that. He's wig number 4. Okay, Trump is wig 4 officially at this point. Let's continue.
In June, a 21-year-old Congressional intern was tragically killed after being hit by a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting. A former Trump administration official named Mike Gill, fantastic person, was murdered last year in cold blood in a carjacking blocks away from the White House. We all knew him. Great person. Waiting for his wife as she was walking to the car. A Democrat congressman was also carjacked at gunpoint not far from the Capitol. And in 2023, an aide to Senator Rand Paul was stabbed in the chest and head by a demented lunatic as he walked down the street, just absolutely for no reason. Horrifically, last July 4th weekend, a 3-year-old girl was shot in the head and killed while sitting in a car near the Capitol. It's becoming a situation of complete and total lawlessness.
So in other words, it's becoming like him, lawlessness. Here's the thing. Now, I don't doubt that these things that he's mentioning actually occurred. These are things that happen every day in all cities. Unfortunately, there is always going to be crime. Okay, we can't get rid of it, sadly. But the bottom line is there's no spike in crime in DC. And if you want me to prove my point, I will in just a moment because I have receipts that Trump is a whole liar who lied. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. This man believes his own lies, okay? He literally believes the lies that he tells. He literally does. But let's keep listening.
And we're getting rid of the slums, too. We have slums here. We're getting rid of them. I know it's not politically correct. You'll say, oh, so terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live. Caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets at all times of the day. There are ATVs, motorbikes. They travel pretty well. Entire neighborhoods are now under emergency curfews. Just this past weekend, gunfire went through, and you saw that, the Navy Yard. I saw it this morning. They saw that they fought back against law. See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night. And they're not going to be fighting back long because I've instructed them and told them whatever happens, you know, they love to spit in the face of the police as the police are standing up there in uniform. They're standing and they're screaming at them an inch away from their face. And then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit and we hit. And
so he's trying to ensue police violence, which he doesn't need to ensue because they always do. But he's talking about Black people. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. He's talking about Blacks and Latinos specifically because he's talking about the slums where they live. Okay, where is that? When they start using words like slums, inner city, okay, downtrodden areas and all that, you already know. You already know who they're talking about. Okay, but what he's not talking about is the type of people that are domestic terrorists who look like him. But let's continue.
they can hit real hard. It's a disgusting thing. I've watched that for years, for 3-4 years. I've watched them. The police are standing, and they're told, don't do anything under any such. So and you can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there, and people are spitting in their face, and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want. This dire public safety crisis stems.
Now I want you all to pay attention. He said they're allowed to do whatever the hell they want. He's giving them permission. Y'all know how many people are likely going to turn up dead, okay, just for protesting peacefully?
Directly from the abject failures of the city's local leadership. The radical left city council adopted no cash bail. By the way, every place in the country where you have no cash bail is a disaster. That's what started the problem in New York, and they don't change it. They don't want to change it. That's what started it in Chicago. I mean, bad politicians started it, bad leadership started it, but that was the one thing that's central, no cash bail. Somebody murders somebody and they're out on no cash bail before the day is out. We're going to end that in Chicago. We're going to change the statute. I spoke with Pam and Todd and everybody. We're going to change the statute, and I'm going to have to get the Republicans to vote because the Democrats are weak on crime, totally weak on crime. They don't know why. They want to stop because they get mugged too. But we're going to change no cash bail. We're going to change the statute and get rid of some of the other things. And we'll count on the Republicans in Congress and Senate to vote. We have the majority, so we'll vote. We don't have a big majority, but we've gotten everything, including the great, big, beautiful bill. Got that done, and that's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to people in this country. They're starting to figure it out, how good it is. Biggest tax cut in history. So many things. but we'll be able to get that done. So Todd, if you and Pam can draw up things working with the people, I'll get it passed. We'll get it passed with the Republicans. Probably won't get, think of this, probably won't get one Democrat vote because they have no idea what they're doing. That's why they want men playing in women's sports. That's why they want transgender for everybody transgender. And they just got walloped in an election in a landslide, and they haven't changed one thing. I saw the other day the certain gentleman who was very well-known politician, Democrat, was fighting like hell that men should be allowed to play in women's sport. They just don't get it. They said it's an 80-20 issue, and I think it's a 97-3 issue. And I don't know who the three are. I've never heard anybody nobody's ever come up to me, sir, you have to let men play in women's sports. You have to do it, sir. Nobody's ever approached me. I don't know where this issue even comes from. Never seen anything like it. But they turned our nation's capital into a sanctuary jurisdiction. That's the other thing. We have to get rid of sanctuary cities as quickly as possible. We're going to do it, too. We have to. Because it's sanctuary for criminals. Releasing illegal alien gang members onto the streets in 2022, nearly 70% of criminals arrested in Washington went unprosecuted. That's not going to happen with the group we have.
Now that he's talking about gangs, what's he going to do about these biker gangs that they call clubs, biker clubs, who are out here committing rug trafficking, trafficking, money laundering, mayhem, mischief, and murder, homicide? What's he going to do about that? See how he doesn't ever mention those people? He doesn't ever mention those people. What's he going to do to stop the mass shootings, the school shootings? What's he going to do about that? I have questions. Okay, at the end of the day, I want y'all to pay attention. This man is a whole mess, but let's listen a few more minutes and then I'm out of this.
Aside and standing behind me. And at the Metropolitan Police Department, it's now reached a small number relatively compared to what it was, but it's thousands of people. You know, we have thousands of police. I was told today, sir, they want more police. I heard a number, 3,500 police. That's a lot of police. 3,500. I thought they were going to say we only have 30 policemen or women. He said we have 3,500. We need more. You don't need more. That's so many. I never heard. That's like an army. How could you need more than 3,000? It just happened 2 minutes ago. Sir, they've requested more police. Oh, what do they have? About 3,500. I said, 3,500? This is not a big area. It's ridiculous. What you need is rules and regulations, and you need the right people to implement them. And we have the right people.
All right, enough. Okay, so Rockstar Swag says a lot of those biker gangs are satanic and do ritual deletions too. Of course they do. And sadly, I do believe that some police officers do as well, because, you know, there is a satanic group called the Order of the Nine Angles that started over in the UK and came over here. It spread. And many of the people supposedly, according to reports from years ago, are police officers and military personnel. Okay, military personnel. So think about that. Okay, this is all a hot mess, but let me just show you all why Trump is lying. So you know that Trump said, I'm going to share my screen. Trump said that the crime in DC is worse than Mexico. Let's see, because I asked ChatGPT. And here's what ChatGPT said. Now, when compared, I said, is the crime in DC worse than crime in Mexico? That was the question I asked. ChatGPT says, when comparing the overall crime situation, it's more meaningful to compare Washington, D.C. to Mexico as a whole, rather than broad generalizations like Mexico, which spans varied regions and crime environments. Now, here's what it says. Washington, D.C. as of mid-2025, violent crime in D.C. has declined sharply by roughly 26% year over year compared to 2024. This includes drops in homicide, assaults, and robberies. Trump. Okay, these remain much lower than recent spikes in 2023, reaching a 30-year low by 2024. Y'all see how this man is a liar who lies? Property crimes and carjackings also fell significantly, and I bring that up because he specifically talked about those having risen. and how his friend got killed in a carjacking. Okay? And maybe the person did get killed in a carjacking, but my thing is stop lying about the stats. Now, Mexico, as of 2023, the national homicide rate stood at approximately 23.3 per 100,000 people. In 2023 alone, over 30,500 homicide victims were reported across Mexico. Certain states like Colima faced extremely high rates, up to 111 homicides per 100,000. Organized crime continues to contribute heavily. Up to 80% of the murders are linked to drug cartels and criminal groups, and violence affects large regions of the communities. Okay? So you all hear that? So I'm telling y'all that Trump is a liar who lies. There's the receipts. There are the receipts. Now, he didn't show us any proof or verification of that. Only what he said is what we're supposed to go by. And then he held up that little graph. Okay, he held up a graph at one point. Okay, which anybody could have made that up. It looks like he printed it off his computer. Okay, so that's all I'm saying. I want y'all to pay attention. This man is a whole liar who lies. You can't believe anything that this president says. And that is a sad shame. Now, so let's talk about what the mayor of DC said. Okay, because, yeah, she didn't go along with what Trump was saying, clearly. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Here we go. So DC Mayor Bowser pushes back against Trump's narrative on crime in the nation's capital, saying any comparison to a war-torn country is hyperbolic and false. Okay? This is what she said amid President Trump's escalation in rhetoric against the city. DC Mayor Muriel Bowser defended the city's handling of crime amid an escalation of threats from President Trump to federalize the nation's capital. She says, we have spent over the last 2 years driving down violent crime in this city, driving it down to a 30-year low, just like I just reported from ChatGPT. Okay, now she's got the facts. Over the past year, she says, now we have decreased violent crime by 26%, and the year before that was by 35%. Trump railed against DC's crime after a top employee of the White House's DOGE agency was assaulted last week. Didn't I tell y'all? That's why he's doing all of this. He said it out of his own mouth. But now he comes back with all of this other stuff to try to back up his excuse, to try to justify his reasoning for deploying the National Guard. And he's going to be doing this to all cities sooner or later. Okay. Now, with that being said, after the person was assaulted during an attempted carjacking. Now, as a result, he called for more federal police presence on the streets of the District of Columbia and said that minors as young as 14 years old should be charged as adults. Minors as young as 14 years old charged as adults for what? Now, if it's murder, that's one thing, but what else are you charging them as adults for? Okay. Now, over the weekend, the Trump administration deployed up to 120 federal agents, mostly from the FBI, to assist the Metropolitan Police in preventing crimes in D.C., which have largely been carjackings. Didn't it just say, and I just read it to you, that the mayor said carjackings are down? On Sunday, the president announced that he would hold, see, the reason he's talking about carjacking specifically is because that's what happened to that young man who got jumped by dogs. Okay, that's what that is. So on Sunday, the president announced that he would hold a press conference at the White House to address DC's crime and the city's beautification. The announcement fueled speculation that he would deploy the National Guard, which he has the legal authority to do since DC is not a state and is locally governed. He says, we're not experiencing a crime. This is what the mayor says. We're not experiencing a crime spike. Okay, it says the DC mayor, who credited years-long coordination between DC city officials and federal agencies in keeping the nation's capital safe. So during her MSNBC interview, Bowser sought to humanize the city, which has long been a target of Republicans who have threatened to take federal control of DC and cast it as poorly run and dangerous to live in. The mayor said DC was among the most beautiful and best cities in the world, saying it's well run. We have excellent schools, the #1 park system. We have experienced rises in tourism compared to before the pandemic. So people are coming to our capital. They're starting businesses in our capital and they're raising families in our capital. Any comparison to a war-torn country is hyperbolic and false. This is what she said, referencing White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller's remark that DC is worse than Baghdad. Let's ask ChatGPT. And I want you all to pay attention because here's the thing. At the end of the day, Stephen Miller is the wanton supremacist that I told you all about, okay, who has worked with Trump in both of his administrations, previously to write his speeches and now as an advisor. Let's see what ChatGPT has to say. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you. Okay, here's what it says. You're comparing two different kinds of safety and security risk, but in short, Baghdad remains considerably more dangerous than Washington, D.C. Okay, that's what it says. Baghdad continues to experience terrorism, sectarian violence, kidnappings, and armed clashes involving militias or insurgents. Threats that go far beyond what's seen in most U.S. cities. I want y'all to pay attention. These are the foolish and ridiculous and asinine lies that they tell. Worse than Baghdad? Like, this is laughable at best. Okay? Recent events like the July 2025 clashes between federal police and PMF fighters further underscores these ongoing security challenges. So with that all being said, crime and broader security risk is significantly, here's the verdict. This is what they say. Crime and broader security risk is significantly worse in Baghdad than in Washington, D.C. D.C.'s challenges are mainly urban crime and gun-related violence, whereas Baghdad faces far more extreme threats, including terrorism and militia violence. Okay, Trump, please sit down somewhere. This man just can't help but to lie. Now, with that all being said, him and his entire cabinet, okay, Stephen Miller, sit down somewhere. Residents and advocates have long resisted those characterizations and threats as untrue, radicalized, and undemocratic, given that D.C. is self-governed under the Home Rule Act. Now, in a Sunday Truth Social post, Trump suggested that he was close to using his federal powers to take control of the nation's capital. To what degree is actually not known. The mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, is a good person who has tried, but she has been given many chances, and the crime numbers get worse, and the city only gets dirtier and less attractive. That's what Trump said on Truth Social, who also called out the city's homelessness and demanded that unhoused individuals move out immediately. Where are they going to move to? The people are homeless. Did y'all hear this? Unhoused individuals move out immediately, in all caps. Bowser said that if Trump wants to make the city safer, he could take action on the federal level, like ensuring that more prosecutors are hired and more federal judges are confirmed by Congress. She says, we have 15 vacancies in the Superior Court, which we need to go down to the Congress for approval. We have 2 vacancies in the Court of Appeals. Okay, anytime you have a backlog in the courts, you have delayed justice and people are less safe. Bowser also touted actions taken by her office and the D.C. City Council, such as changing local criminal laws. She noted that the city's interventions, such as allowing the city to hold violent offenders using guns pre-trial. She says, we've seen shootings and homicides precipitously drop. Now, in his Sunday post, Trump vowed to do in D.C. what he was able to do at the U.S. border since re-entering office 6 months ago, saying, just like I took care of the border, where you had 0 illegals coming across last month from millions the year before. So it went from millions the year before to 0. Now, y'all know Trump is lying. From millions to 0. Yeah, he's clearly lying. But anyway, he said, I will take care of our cherished capital and we will take it back. We will make it truly great again. Well, we already know what he means when he says that kind of stuff. Okay, that kind of rhetoric. So anyway, y'all hear this? Anonymous Lee said, Trump is the criminal of D.C. Yes. Deronda said, lying like a rug, Queen. Exactly. Okay, D Major Scaly says, I know some people don't think it could get as bad as Germany until here to I'm here to tell you it can't. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I put nothing past Trump. I put absolutely nothing past him whatsoever. Okay, but let's continue. Let's continue. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. So now, where's that video? I want to show you all these people taken to the streets. I think this is it right here. Yeah, where they show the National Guard already deployed to the streets. Already deployed to the streets, honey. Let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Trump needs to sit down somewhere, honey. He is doing the absolute most. Nene said, why couldn't he be one of the I am not even going to read that, honey. Okay, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
To speak at the White House, he's expected to address crime in the nation's capital once again as he is threatening a federal takeover of the district's local government. Over the weekend, the administration launched, I guess you call it a crackdown in D.C., involving up to 450 federal officers. And now a source is telling CNN that the plans are going even further. And now the plans call for as many as 130 FBI agents to patrol the streets with D.C. police, which, to say the least, would be highly unusual. The president's floated the possibility of deploying the National Guard even there as well. All of this despite that the numbers don't necessarily match the rhetoric, that the stats and the data show that violent crime has dropped in D.C. compared to this time last year. CNN's Elena Train is at the White House. His fixation on this is only getting more fixated, not less, despite what the numbers say. What are you expecting to hear from the president today?
Well, I put it this way, Kate. We've definitely seen, of course, the president repeatedly try to paint himself as a law and order man, a law and order president. We've also seen him repeatedly this term push the boundaries of his executive authority. And we're really going to see both of those things kind of escalate today when he addresses reporters at 10 a.m. in the White House briefing room. Now, I'm expecting to hear a lot of the same things we've seen the president post over the weekend. Just to give you one of them from yesterday, he said, quote, "The homeless have to move out immediately. We will give you places to stay, but far from the Capitol." He went on to say, "The criminals, you don't have to move out. We're going to put you in jail where you belong." Now, I think it's important to note, Kate, as you mentioned, we have seen crime in D.C. actually drop in recent years, not just from this time last year, but also when you look back to 2023 from those numbers as well. And we are seeing the president take things to a level you haven't really seen in this city. So as you mentioned, this event comes after we saw the president launch a surge of these federal law enforcement agencies. We were told by a White House official that 450 officers were expected to participate. And then we also have from a source familiar that we could see as many as 130 FBI agents patrolling the city alongside DC police. And it's, again, notable. It's not typical for FBI agents to be doing this type of work, looking at license plates to see which vehicles may have been stolen, other things like that. Now, all of this, as we've also heard, Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, he's compared this city to a war zone. He said it's, quote, more violent than Baghdad. It's more violent than parts of Ethiopia. And what's been really striking to see over this past several days now, ever since the president 5 days ago had threatened the surge of federal law enforcement, we've notably not heard a lot from local officials. That included the DC mayor, Muriel Bowser. However, we did hear her break her silence yesterday when she went on one of the Sunday shows. Listen to what she said.
Any comparison to a war-torn country is hyperbolic and false. There are very specific things in our law that would allow the president to have more control over our police department. None of those conditions exist in our city right now. As I mentioned, we are not experiencing a spike in crime. In fact, we're watching our crime numbers go down.
So as you heard her say there, we're watching our crime numbers go down. But again, this is the first time we've heard Bowser address this since all of this began. And it's been, again, very notable. We haven't heard from many local law enforcement officials speaking up about this. Something notable as well for me was that Bowser did not direct the president or attack the president directly. All to say, waiting to see what the president will actually say when we see him at 10 a.m. We'll, of course, bring you the news there. Kate.
Elena Trina at the White House for us. Thank you so much, Elena.
With us now is Executive Committee Chair for the New York State Democratic Party, Christine Quinn, and Republican strategist Neil Chatterjee. And Christine, I just want to start with you here because the crime stats are what they are. Why is this still potentially a potent political issue for the president?
Well, crime is always top or very high on people's lists of concerns because no one wants their city or town to go back to as dangerous as it might have been in the 80s or 90s. But also, I think President Trump, and you can't really argue this, has had almost a war against urban America or blue urban America, which much of urban America is. And this is another example of the facts be damned. Today, he's talking a lot, or yesterday, about homelessness. Homelessness in D.C., based on the point in time survey, which is federally mandated, is down 9%. This is an issue of him really wanting to stick it to Democratic mayors in urban America when he should be focusing on things like his cuts in the budget could reduce policing in urban America and dramatically cut back homelessness services, which will raise homelessness.
Neil, I haven't heard a single Republican have an issue with this, either locally in D.C. or nationally. The stats are what they are. D.C. is a different thing than any other city because the federal government has more power there. But how comfortable are you with this extension of federal power?
Yeah, look, stats and numbers are one thing. What people actually experience and feel is another. I live here. I used to work next door to the CNN studio in Washington, D.C. at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. I got to tell you, when I would walk to Union Station at night after work, I was very uncomfortable. I walked through a lot of seedy situations. And so you can throw out statistics and surveys all you want. The fact is, people who live here, people who visit here in the nation's capital, they feel uncomfortable. And the president senses that and wants to do something about it. And I applaud him for it.
Okay, those are the words of a raccoon. Please pay attention.
Are you ready to sell your house? I will buy it. You can get a cash.
Those are clearly the words of a whole raccoon. Okay, please pay attention.
Christine, one last question on this. What's the risk for Democrats here? We didn't hear from Washington, D.C.'s mayor until vaguely over the weekend and only a little bit there. Why are Democrats being so careful about this?
Well, I think overall Democrats are being too careful in general, is my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think facts do matter. If you're the leader of the country, if you're the mayor of a city, facts matter. You have to decide how to put your resources out there based on what is real. And you know what? One of the reasons there has been some challenges around prosecutions for crimes in D.C. is that both President Biden and President Trump haven't filled the judges' seats that are necessary to be federally appointed to prosecute crime in D.C. If he wants to help D.C. keep crime down, that's what he should do. And you need to lead based.
Okay, isn't that what I told you all? Hold on, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and see what this congressman has to say. But at the end of the day, that's exactly what the mayor said. Okay, if he wants to help DC, then why not get some judges in there? Okay, that are going to do the job, and so they don't have such a serious backlog in the courts. But also, here's the thing. Now, I'm not going to get into this today. But I'm going to talk to you all tomorrow about why Trump, there's a whole lot of other stuff that he needs to be more concerned about, honey. And when I tell you, he needs to be worried about a whole coup d'etat being enacted on the United States, okay, from a foreign entity. All right. There has been information dropped about that. And it has everything to do, allegedly, with the Epstein files that a certain country doesn't want revealed. And I've heard that they have been blackmailing the United States. Okay, so we're going to talk about that tomorrow. But please pay attention, honey, because Trump, you're not fooling anybody. This is all a distraction That's what he's doing. Don't look over here, look over there. That's what Trump's doing right now, okay? I want y'all to pay attention because tomorrow we're going to get into it.
Outside of D.C. Congressman, thanks for being here. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but let's talk about this escalation in language against the district over homelessness problem, over juvenile crime. I think he's mentioned the graffiti. There's going to be a press conference today. What do you see and how he's talking about this? Does it merit federal action?
Yeah, his words just make it clear. He doesn't care about homeless people. He doesn't care about the city. He just wants the homeless people out of his sight. And he's acting on crime right now because a DOJ employee got attacked. And so, yes, homelessness is a problem in D.C. Crime is a problem in D.C. like it is in many cities. But I think it's special to him because it's him and his inner circle see it, and that's what is affecting them. And so I would say generally, if he wants to address all these issues, how about start by actually funding DC and giving it the federal funding that it has been set aside for it over the years?
Exactly. You see, build more homeless shelters, give them somewhere to go. Like America has a huge homeless crisis, not just in DC, everywhere. All of these cities have a homeless problem. As far as I'm concerned, people should not have to live on the streets and scrape and scratch to just get a meal. Okay, the United States has all these resources. They claim to be the home of the free and the land of the brave. Why do we have a whole problem with homelessness? And I just want you all to pay attention because many of these people that are homeless are disabled veterans, people who fought for this country. Okay, and they get disrespected. But people like Trump and with his mindset will sit there and act as though Colin Kaepernick was so low down and that he was disrespecting the flag and the veterans. Well, the only people who disrespect the veterans in this country is our government. Okay, they don't give them proper medical treatment. They don't give them proper mental health treatment. A lot of these people suffer from PTSD and they're forced to live out on the streets and nobody seems to care, specifically not the government. So Trump can miss me with it. He doesn't give a darn about the city, just like this man is saying. All he cares about is because he hates poor people and the downtrodden. He doesn't want to see them in his sight, and nor does he want to do anything to help them. So he'll demonize and vilify them and tell them they need to get out. Where are they going to go? He sounds so stupid, but let's continue.
They've been withholding funding for DC this session in Congress, and that would be a much better way to tackle homelessness, funding the police here, for instance, to be able to do their jobs rather than this rhetoric. And generally, I see this rhetoric from President Trump and this administration.
But it's not just rhetoric in terms of they've got now some federal agents from various departments that are going to be supporting the district when it comes to crime prevention. Do you see this as a step towards the most extreme would be revoking home rule, saying DC can't run itself. But in what ways is he encroaching on how DC's run?
Yeah, it's the law, the home rule. It's the law right now to give DC the autonomy to address these issues. If the president and this Congress want to help with crime, they can do that. If they want to help with homelessness, they can do that. What I don't think is very helpful, though, is when they withhold funding like they have in the past, and they just talk about this problem and talking about moving people out of their sight away from DC, because I live in Virginia. That's my district and my home. And so is there a plan to move people to Virginia to get rid of the people in DC who are struggling? How about helping them directly? How about getting them funding? How about getting them housing here in DC, their home, right? That would be much more productive than what the president's doing right now.
Just a darn shame, like I said. Now let's go to this footage of these agents out here the National Guard has taken to the streets, or shall I say FBI agents. I'm going to mute this because they're playing music in the background, and then I'll just add, I won't add anything. But anyway, I'm going to play this. I want you all to see how they got them out here in the streets. Look at it, FBI agents, as if they don't have anything better to do. They will be better served sitting in their offices fighting crime than taken to the streets. Look at it. This is an intimidation tactic. So they're just walking around looking mean and tough. What's this supposed to do? How long are they going to walk around and patrol? Are they going to go up and start harassing people who are minding their own business? This is all a hot mess. Okay, so y'all see that, honey. Trump is such an idiot. Okay, he is just going about everything all wrong as far as I'm concerned. He needs to be worried about that darn coup that might be hitting America. Okay, that's what he needs to be worried about. And so anyway, deploying the National Guard and FBI agents and all of that. Okay, well, let's talk about Ghislaine Maxwell, because guess what? Surprisingly, of course, not really, a judge has denied the DOJ to be able to use and unseal the grand jury transcripts. Here's the thing. How you know that's all a load of BS is because, for one, Trump doesn't care about what a judge says. Trump's had judges arrested. Okay? He's had federal judges arrested. So do y'all think that's going to stop him if he really wanted to do it? But he'll use that as his excuse not to unseal those documents. And like I said, tomorrow we're going to get into more about the why. Because a certain group of people supposedly don't want that stuff unsealed, and it's supposedly, allegedly, blackmailing the US of A.
It's 10 Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. I'm Ana Cabrera reporting from New York. Let's get right to that breaking news. Just moments ago, a federal judge denying the Justice Department's bid to unseal grand jury records from the criminal case against Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's accomplice, noting in part that the materials do not identify anyone other than Epstein or Maxwell who had sexual contact with a minor. And joining us now for more on this is MSNBC's Ken Delanian and former federal prosecutor Barrett Berger. So Ken, break this down for us. What are we hearing from this judge?
This was a resounding ruling on a totally repudiating the Justice Department's request to unseal these transcripts, really saying that there are no special circumstances here, and it's not in the public interest to violate grand jury secrecy by throwing this stuff out to the public, in part because the judge said these materials would reveal nothing new. They're basically a summary of things that are already in the public record from the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. I'll just read from one of the passages here. A member of the public familiar with the Maxwell trial record, the judge wrote, who reviewed these grand jury materials would learn next to nothing new. He said they do not reveal new venues at which their crimes occurred. They do not reveal new sources of their wealth. He's talking about Epstein and Maxwell. They do not explore the circumstances of Epstein's death, and they do not reveal the path of the government investigation. He further said there's no client list in here. There, as you said, there's no allegation that anyone else had sexual contact with minors. And he is saying that really the only decent legal argument to release these transcripts, this was remarkable, is that it would show that the Justice Department's argument for doing so was totally disingenuous and may have been more about distraction than transparency. Those are the words of a federal judge, Anna.
And so, Bear, what's your reaction to this?
I'm not surprised by this, Anna. It is a very high threshold to unseal grand jury materials for good reason. We make this promise to witnesses that testify in the grand jury that these are secret proceedings. And so it really has to be a high public need for these kinds of documents to become public. The judge here very clearly found there was not. The public being interested in this story just doesn't meet what the statute requires. What's interesting to me is that a lot of the arguments that DOJ made at the end about why these documents should be released, the judge actually seemed to say support them not being released. DOJ was saying much of this material was already made public during trial, so really what's the harm of releasing it? The judge flipping that right back saying, actually, because this material was largely made public during a very lengthy trial, now there is no need to take this extraordinary step of unsealing these records. So it's not surprising, but I'm sure for many people it will be disappointing.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out in this ruling, as we continue to read through this on page 21, so it's a lengthy ruling, he writes of the Maxwell grand jury testimony that this is not a matter of significant historical or public interest. Far from it. It consists of garden variety summary testimony by 2 law enforcement agents. And the information it contains is already almost entirely a matter of long-standing public record. I mean, Barrett, wouldn't the DOJ have already known this when they asked to have these transcripts made public?
They would have obviously reviewed these documents. And that's what many of us who worked as federal prosecutors have been saying. Grand jury proceedings, by and large, are not as, sexy as many people may think they are. Usually it's not hundreds of witnesses that are testifying for the grand jury. It's one, maybe two case agents that testify, often putting in, large summaries of documents that they've reviewed or people that they've spoken to. Hearsay testimony is allowed in the grand jury, so that's why federal prosecutors are often able to only call one or two case agents as their witnesses. So the federal prosecutors here would have certainly reviewed these documents. They knew what was in them. Again, this may be some type of, trying to serve the client here, saying the client really wants these to be public and we're getting a lot of pressure. So let's make the motion. But definitely they would have known the substance and known that there wasn't anything so groundbreaking in them.
And so, Ken, we know there's a separate judge considering unsealing documents as well. Could that still happen?
Look, there's every reason to believe that this judge, the judge in the Epstein case, who's considering a similar request, will come to the exact same conclusions, because that was also a summary witness grand jury. Neither of these were investigative grand juries, were they?
Okay, so you all heard that, honey. At the end of the day, like I said, if Trump really wanted to release anything, he would do it. He doesn't care anything about laws, judges, or what judges tell him. He does whatever he wants. All right. So, like I said, he'll use that as an excuse why he's not going to have the files released. But so let's talk about Putin. Let's talk about Putin, because U.S. officials rushed to finalize details of Trump-Putin summit, including if Zelensky is going to be invited. Now, I don't know why. This is a report from 7 hours ago. I don't know why Zelensky wants to be invited back to the White House or anywhere with Trump after how Trump just disrespected him and kicked him up out of there last time and didn't even feed him lunch. Do y'all remember that? Do y'all remember that? And let's get into it.
Final preparations for a high-stakes summit between President Trump and Vladimir Putin in Alaska this Friday. We understand they still have to pick a venue. Also undecided what role, if any, Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky will have in determining the fate of his own country. Overnight, Zelensky said, quote, Russia refuses to stop the killings and therefore must not receive any rewards or benefits. Concessions do not persuade a killer. Let's get right to CNN's Elena Treen at the White House with the latest. Good morning, Elena.
Good morning, John. I mean, look, this is an incredibly quick timeline for any type of meeting of this magnitude with a foreign leader, let alone a potential foreign adversary. And so we are seeing people here at the White House really scrambling to try and make this possible. And again, hosting Vladimir Putin on American soil, I cannot go or overstate enough just how big of a deal this is and how little time they have had to prepare for this. Now, you mentioned this, John, but as of this morning, there is still no official venue for this face-to-face meeting between President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. We know, of course, that it's expected to be in Alaska. It's central to, Moscow as well as Washington. But that's really all that they are sharing on that front thus far. And I think the stakes, of course, are so incredibly high. We are now 7 months into the president's first term, and his big goal, one of the top priorities for him when he came into office, was to try and find a swift end to this war between Russia and Ukraine. And recently, of course, in recent months, we've really seen his tune change. He had hoped that he could leverage his relationship with Putin to make progress on that. But in recent weeks, you've really seen his frustration with the Russian president grow because of his duplicity. And now, of course, we are seeing the president host him on American soil and seeing if hopefully he can make further progress by having it face to face. It's really a major test for President Donald Trump and his long-held faith in having these face-to-face meetings and hoping that they are really the key negotiating tool that he believes in. Now, I think there's still, of course, a number of questions that are hanging over this. You mentioned one, but the big one, of course, is whether or not we're actually going to see Zelensky travel to Alaska as well for this. We did not hear the president or other top officials say that he was going to be coming when they announced this on Friday. But from our conversations with people here at the White House, they are leaving that potential open. But the priority for them has remained in these conversations. They say the priority has remained that they have Trump and Putin come face to face. Another key question, of course, is what exactly did Putin share with the special envoy for the president, Steve Witkoff, last week when Witkoff met with him in Moscow? That was really the key meeting that set all of this in motion. And what was it exactly? What are the exact details that Putin was offering that made people here in this administration believe that it was the time was right to have these two come together? And so really a number of questions that still need to be answered. A lot of people here scrambling ahead of the Friday summit, but we'll have to wait and see exactly what they can work out in these next few days.
Yeah. What, if anything?
All right, so there you have it. Mel says Trump and Putin are one of the same. They are devil worshippers. Honey, I really don't think Putin is a devil worshiper, and I'm sorry, but he is nothing like Trump, okay? Nothing like Trump. I like Putin a whole lot better, okay? I'm sorry, it's true. At the end of the day, Putin a devil worshiper. Didn't we just see, because I did a video on the backup channel like a year or so ago, Putin was worshiping a black image of Jesus. What are you talking about, Mel? Where'd you get that from? Do you have anything to substantiate that claim? Because I'm not falling for that one, honey. Now, Trump might be a devil worshiper. I, in fact, think Trump might even be the Antichrist. But Putin worships a black Jesus, honey, okay? We all saw that. And a devil worshiper, that's the last thing I would expect to see them do it, okay? And in fact, the MAGA people got so mad when that video came out. So anyway, with that all being said, Putin will fool Trump while Ukrainians are wary about Alaska talks. Many Ukrainians and experts believe Russia's Putin will seek to dupe Trump while expanding territorial gains in eastern Ukraine. Well, he probably is going to dupe Trump because Trump's an idiot and Putin doesn't have any respect for him. Putin just deals with him, okay, just to get what he wants, okay? That's all that is. Putin does not have any respect for Trump because who could? Okay, who could have respect for this man? What foreign leader could really offer him any respect, knowing that he's a whole pathological liar and clearly nefarious and all of the BS that he does, and he seems to believe his own lies, which is what, in fact, most pathological liars do. Okay, so here's what they say. Taurus, a seasoned Ukrainian serviceman recovering from a contusion, expects no miracles from United States President Donald Trump, okay, from his August the 15th summit with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, saying there's going to be no miracles, no peace deal in a week. And Putin will try to make Trump believe that it is Ukraine that doesn't want peace. This is what the 32-year-old said. Now, Taurus, who spent more than 3 years on the front line and said he had recently shot down an explosives-laden Russian drone barging at him in a field covered with explosion craters, withheld his last name in accordance with the wartime protocol. They say Putin wants to dupe Trump by pandering to the U.S. president's self-image as a peacemaker to avoid further economic sanctions. Yeah, that sounds about right. While the Russian leader seeks a major military breakthrough in eastern Ukraine. Putin really believes that until this winter, he will seize everything sizable, or he will seize something sizable, or that his troops will break through the front line and will dictate terms to Ukraine, Torres says. And as the Trump administration trumpets the upcoming Alaska summit as a major step towards securing a ceasefire, Ukrainians, civilians, and military personnel alike, and experts are largely pessimistic about the outcomes of the meeting between the U.S. and Russian president. Now, this is partly because of the fact on the ground in eastern Ukraine. Earlier this month, Russia intensified its push to seize key locations in the southeastern Donetsk region, ordering thousands of servicemen to conduct nearly suicidal missions to infiltrate Ukrainians' position, guarded 24/7 by buzzing drones with night and thermal vision. Now, in the past 3 months, Russian forces have occupied some 1,500 square feet or square kilometers, which is 580 square miles approximately, mostly in Donetsk, of which Russia controls about 3/4, according to the Ukrainian and Western estimates based on geolocated photos and videos. Now, the pace is slightly faster than in the past 3 years. Within weeks after Moscow's full-scale invasion, which began in February 2022, Russia controlled some 27% of Ukrainian territory. But Kyiv's daring counteroffensive and Moscow's inability to hold on to areas around the capital and in Ukraine's north resulted in the loss of 9% of occupied lands by the fall of 2022. So Russia has since reoccupied less than 1% of Ukrainians' territory, Ukrainian territory, despite losing hundreds of thousands of servicemen while pummeling Ukrainian cities almost daily with swarms of drones and missiles, and Russia's push to occupy a buffer zone in Ukraine's northern Sumy region failed as Kyiv's forces regained most of the occupied ground. Ukraine also controls a tiny border area in Russia's western Kursk region, where it started a successful offensive in August of 2024, but lost most of its gains earlier this year. So anyway, reports, these are the reports not denied by Washington. They suggest that Trump might offer Moscow full control of Donetsk and the smaller neighboring Luhansk region. In exchange, Moscow could offer a ceasefire and the freezing of the front line in other Ukrainian regions, as well as the retreat from tiny toeholds in Sumy and the northeastern or Sumy and in the northeastern Kharkiv region, according to reports. So anyway, with that all being said, they think that Trump's going to get played by Putin, and likely he will. And they say despite Trump's recent change in rhetoric and growing public dissatisfaction with Moscow's reluctance to end the hostilities, the U.S. president has a history of blaming Ukraine for the war and its demands of its allies, while some of his negotiators have repeated Moscow's talking points. It is also unclear whether Zelensky will be invited to a trilateral meet with Trump and Putin in Alaska, or whether the U.S. will go ahead and seek to shape the future of Ukraine without Kyiv in the room. They say Trump has let us down several times, and the people who believe he won't do it again are very naive, if not stupid. Okay, this is what Leonid Cherkassin said, a retired colonel from the Black Sea port of Odessa who fought pro-Russian rebels in Donetsk in 2014 to 15 and suffered contusions, shrapnel, and bullet wounds. He said he did threaten Putin a lot in recent weeks, but his actions don't follow his words. He referred to Trump's pledges during his re-election campaign to end the war in 24 hours. Y'all remember that fool said it, that he would end the war in 24 hours? A war that's been going on for years, but he has the power. Of course he did. He was just talking lies and just trying to get people to vote for him, which foolishly many did. And his ultimatums to impose crippling sanctions on Russia if Putin does not show progress in a peace settlement. Trump's ultimatum to Putin, initially 50 days long, was reduced to 10 to 12 days and ended on Friday, one day after the Alaska summit was announced. Military analysts agree that Putin will not bow to Trump's and Zelensky's demands. Of course he won't, okay, because Putin is a real one at the end of the day. Okay, he has no respect for people like Trump or Zelensky, and who should? Now, meanwhile, the very fact of a face-to-face with Trump heralds a diplomatic victory for Putin, who has become a political pariah in the West and faces child abduction charges that have led the International Criminal Court to issue an arrest warrant against him. Is that really what they say? Putin last visited the U.S. for bilateral meetings in 2007, only coming for UN summits after that, but not visiting the country since the warrant was issued. Honey, they got warrants for Putin everywhere. If you remember, that's why he didn't go to that last summit that they had over there in Africa. What's paramount for Putin is the fact of his conversation with Trump as equals. Okay, according to Nikolai Mitrokin, a researcher with German's Bremen University, saying, I think the deal will be limited to an agreement on cessation of airstrikes, and Putin will get 3 months to finalize the land operations. That is, to seize the entire Donetsk region. Now, as an air ceasefire may benefit Russia as it can amass thousands of drones and hundreds of missiles for future attacks. The ceasefire will also stop Ukraine's increasingly successful drone strikes on military sites, ammunition depots, airfields, and oil refineries in Russia or occupied Ukrainian regions. Then Putin will, of course, fool Trump and everything will resume, he said. That sounds about right, because Trump is a fool. All right, so what else could he do? Okay, what else could he do? Okay, licensed federal officer Carol Banks said Putin is a gangster with OCD. Okay, I have to agree. Mr. Elevation said Trump Diddy Trump is nefarious. It's a nefarious joke in orange spray paint. Okay, Mel said Putin's still bombing Ukraine right now. Oh, yes, he is. And I don't give a darn about Ukraine. You know, they have a lot of wanton supremacists over there. I've never supported Ukraine and never will. Zelensky can sit down somewhere as far as I'm concerned. And what really ticked me off about the Biden administration was all the billions of dollars that they sent over there. Was Ukraine blackmailing them? I think they were. I don't have any proof of that, but due to some research that I did some years ago, I absolutely think that's what was going on. And at the end of the day, Biden could have been better served using that money to build facilities for people with mental health issues in this country. What's happened to all of the asylums? Why do we have crazy people or insane people with mental health crises walking the streets? Okay. That's very dangerous, but they don't want to invest money in that. They also don't want to invest money and do anything to help the homeless in this country, sadly. But they have the nerve to go over to other foreign lands and try to tell them about inhumanity as it pertains to their people. What about the people here in America that are treated in inhumane fashion, specifically people who look like me? Okay, how do you get killed at a traffic stop, okay, for a citation, which isn't even a crime, okay, and you're not even armed? And then they say you were resisting arrest, but you were not even initially being arrested. Okay, please make it all make sense. The United States can never make that make sense, in my opinion. But now let's talk about Trump extending, because he talks a whole lot of tough talk and then backpedals. Trump extends China's tariff deadline by 90 days. This just came out this morning or this evening at 2:31. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order that will prevent high U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods from snapping back into effect for another 90 days, according to a White House official who gave the information to CNBC. The order was signed just hours before the pause on Trump's tariffs was set to expire, no less. The delay was the expected outcome from the latest round of talks between U.S. trade negotiators and their Chinese counterparts, which took place in Stockholm in late July. President Donald Trump on Monday delayed high U.S. tariffs on the Chinese goods. Now, with that all being said, if the deadline were not extended, then U.S. duties on China would have shot back up to where they stood in April when the tariff war began. The world's largest trading nations was at its peak. At that time, Trump had cranked up blanket tariffs on Chinese imports to 14.5%, and China had retaliated with 125% duties on U.S. goods. Okay, but the two sides agreed to pause most of those tariffs in May after negotiators met for the first time in Geneva. The U.S. pared its tariffs back to 30%, and China dropped its levies to 10%. Monday's extension is the latest example of how Trump's go again, off again tariffs have shifted with little prior notice, a dynamic that has made U.S. trade policy unpredictable for many businesses. Trump's a whole fool. Okay, Trump has previously announced steep tariffs on countries or specific sectors, only to scale them back, tweak them, or pause them days or weeks later. The reciprocal tariffs he initially rolled out in early April, for instance, were quickly paused and then delayed multiple times before taking effect in an altered form last week. On Sunday, Trump said he wanted China to quickly quadruple its orders of U.S. soybeans, saying this is also a way of substantially reducing China's trade deficit with the USA. That's what Trump said in a post on Truth Social. Okay, Chicago soybean prices rose Monday. It was not immediately clear if China has agreed to step up its soybean purchases in the response to Trump's post. So he's trying to make them buy soybeans. Trump, sit down somewhere. Okay, so with that all being said, what do y'all have to say about all the mayhem that this lunatic is started? Oh, Claudette said the same thing, said he's a lunatic. Exactly. Okay, exactly. So anyway, this is all crazy. D Major said, Queen, Trump also signed an executive order regarding 401ks. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Let me write that down. Now, with that all being said, I'm about to be out of here. But before I go, I want you all to pay attention. You know the young black teen that got jumped by the group of thugs, one's father being a police officer? Well, now he has come out and said that he forgives them. Okay, and I can't help but think that is that because he's African? Because I think he's African, of African descent. I'm not sure, but you know, here's the problem. Some people will beg to differ. You know, he could just be an African American, but I think he's an African. But here's the thing: Why do melanated people always feel compelled to forgive those who do treacherous and depraved things and heinous things to them? Okay, why? Why is it that so many of us choose to forgive, but the other people don't likely forgive? That's what they don't do. Okay, and we know that for a fact. We know that for a fact. I don't believe that these people have the same energy of forgiveness as we do. Okay? Please make that make sense. And I have to think that a lot of it comes from the indoctrination that people who look like me have been put under, like they're under a spell. Okay? They're under a spell, it seems. I mean, brainwashed to the high heavens at the end of the day. And, you know, some of them actually think that we have to forgive because that's what God wants us to do. God doesn't even forgive everybody. And y'all know it. God doesn't forgive everybody. If you read the Bible, you know that. Because what did God do when he told Moses at the burning bush to go tell Pharaoh, let my people go? And when Pharaoh refused, God sent the plagues upon them. Did he not? So did it look like God forgave them? What about Samson when he slew the Philistines? And he asked God, after all the stuff they'd done to him, taking his strength from him through the aid of Delilah with her no good self. Delilah kind of reminds me of Cassie, but let me continue. And then blinded him and all of that. And when he stood there as they were about to kill him, he pushed down those pillars after he prayed and asked God to give him the strength one more time to let him take them out with him. And that's what God did. So I'm sorry if I don't believe that God forgives everybody. And if God doesn't forgive everybody, well, neither should I. And neither should we. Okay, please pay attention. Don't believe the lies that you've been taught in church is all I'm saying. Because a lot of that stuff is BS. And at the end of the day, there's nothing about religion in the Bible anyway. Jesus was no Christian. Now, I'm not telling you not to be one, but what I'm saying is, if you're a Christian because you think that's what Jesus was, he wasn't. Jesus didn't have a religion. Okay, that's not even mentioned in the Bible. So let me continue. Now, like I said, this young man saw fit to forgive. Okay, and I'm not saying that, you know, you shouldn't forgive people sometimes, because sometimes maybe you should, but it depends on what they exactly did. Okay, if somebody, for example, is careless and not paying attention and talking on the phone and they drop maybe something heavy on your foot, well, and it hurts and you get injured, you could forgive them for that. But if somebody maliciously and wantonly drops something on your head that causes you to have a concussion, and then they stomp you while you're down and kick you and call you racist slurs and other people join in to help, well, at the end of the day, why should you forgive that? They literally tried to take you up out of here. Okay, so make that make sense. And when you forgive people for nefarious actions, that just gives them the wherewithal to do it again. Maybe not to you, but clearly to somebody else because they got away with it the first time. Okay, but let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen. I have to stop talking like this, you guys, because really, this is why ScrewTube is back messing with my channel and my views are down. I want y'all to pay attention. The subscriber count is up, but the views are down. YouTube, really? Because they don't like when the queen talks about this. Remember that time I had to delete over 1,000 videos just so I could get my monetization back? Yeah, YouTube, shout out to you, because this is y'all's platform and y'all get to run it however you want. But I digress.
Hello, my name is Michael Robinson. You know, I just want to start off by saying thank you guys and to everyone who's been supporting me and showing me love through this whole situation. You know, I really appreciate it.
Now listen, he's talking very low, so you all may not be able to hear it, but he just announced himself and he wants to tell them he's appreciating them for all that they've done or whatever. Basically, he's going to get to the forgiveness part in a second.
Because it was a lot and it was very inhumane thing to have to go through. But, you know, everybody was taking the first step. Some of you, you know, you voiced your concerns, you went to the council and everything. But my first step was forgiveness.
Okay, so he said that it was a lot. Hold on. Michael says, sorry, Queen, I respectfully disagree with your comments about forgiving. Well, I'm sure you do, Michael. Most Christians would. Okay, so I don't fault you for that, beloved. Your beliefs are your beliefs. You don't have to tell me you disagree. You don't have to disagree. Like I told you all, nobody has to agree on this channel with anything that I ever say. We all have our own minds and can think and feel however we choose. I'm just telling you how I feel and how I see it. Okay, you can agree to disagree. I really don't care. I'm just telling you what I see it.
So when I'm out here in these meetings and interviews and everything, I just wanted to let it be known that I forgive those boys what they did. I hold no hard feelings towards them, no animosity.
He just said he has no hard feelings toward them nor animosity. Honey, if you jump me and you calling me racial slurs while you do it, I got all the Anna on my chest. Okay, I got all the Anna on my chest. Okay, please miss me with all of that. If you want to put pause on me and y'all want to jump me and all of that just because of the way I look, I didn't do anything to you. Yes, I don't have no forgiveness. Okay, that's what I don't have. I got nothing but angst. But let me continue.
Towards their parents, I heard I don't have any hard feelings.
He said he doesn't have any problems with their parents and all of that, basically.
Towards them, Sergeant Gene, you know, I've heard great things about Sergeant Gene. Pretty sure I've seen him before. He's not a bad guy. It was a lot, and I'm still processing all of it right now, so I'm not even really sure how to go about all of it. I'm just trusting the help from you guys and others and leaning on you guys for your support. And I just want to see this. I just want to see justice.
Now, he said he does want to see justice because that's what I was listening for. I was listening for because I'm like, wait a minute. And I know he's not going to sit his little black self up here and say that he doesn't want to press charges or he doesn't want them to get the full brunt of punishment for what they did. But no, he does want justice, even though he's forgiven them. Okay. And like I said, forgiveness isn't a bad thing if that's what you want to do. I mean, at the end of the day, I just feel like people who look like me, who have no problem forgiving people who commit whole hate crimes on them, Michael, when you can forgive people for committing hate crimes on you, and you can just sit there and turn the other cheek, at the end of the day, that's what's wrong with black folk. Okay, that's why we stay under the boot of wanton supremacists. But let me continue, because why would you forgive the people who do these things to you, but they don't have any forgiveness for us for just being black? Okay, I didn't have the skin. I can't have the skin I was born in, but do they forgive us for even that? No, some of them don't. The ones who are MAGA, okay, the ones that think like Trump. But let me continue.
And I just want to see the law do what the law does. I want it to be peaceful. I don't want these kids to be threatened or anything. I want to see it all go down the way it's supposed to go, the way God intended it to. And yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Hi, I'm Patrice Perry. I'm Michael's mom. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to Prophetess Taryn, this ministry.
Oh, sorry.
Organization. When I got this call, I missed the call, and I woke up the next morning with all these missed calls from California, and I knew that my son was dead, but it wasn't the case. And I am very thankful to God that he is alive. And my immediate conversation to Michael was, how are you? And please forgive those boys, because it wasn't them. It's the hatred. And I'm just so happy to see how the community is coming together. From Texas, watching from afar, it was very beautiful to see. And this didn't just happen to Michael, it happened to everyone. And I want to, just encourage everyone to forgive and move forward and seek justice for Michael. And I also want to say thank you to Brittany, because she stepped in my place when I couldn't be here. And I'm very thankful to that.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I forgot I muted myself, you guys, because Rena was in here doing something, making noise. But anyway, here's the thing. What I was saying was essentially he's saying that he wants justice. He wants the law to work the way it's supposed to. He does want justice, and he wants everything to go as it should go. even though he forgives them. Now, his mother says that she sounds crazy to me because she says that she woke up to 10 missed calls from her son, or 10 missed calls, period. And she just knew at that point that her son was dead. And so she was glad to find that he was all right, but he could have been dead. They could have beaten him to death. But with that all been said, she too forgives them. Okay, girl, sit down somewhere. If somebody did something like that to either one of my sons, baby, forgiveness will be the last thing on my agenda. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that's so ignorant to me. When you forgive somebody that didn't even ask for it, did they come and apologize to him and his mother and beg their forgiveness? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. That's what they didn't do. So why would you forgive somebody who didn't even ask for it? That's just idiotic. I don't care who's mad. That's just idiotic to me. Okay, but let me continue, because here's what some people say about it. Okay, I'm going to go to a couple of more TikTok videos before I close out. This is all crazy as far as I'm concerned. At the end of the day, you forgive somebody when they didn't even ask you for it. How stupid can you be? Because that's pretty stupid to me. Facts.
He would murder my nephew. He's like my nephew. And I just want to thank the chief for allowing me to help me to speak to you, because I want to speak about Mike's character. Mike loves God and he loves everyone he comes in contact with. He's not a gangbanger. And when I called him, when I found out what happened, I said, what happened? Did you get in an argument with them? His words to me were, no, Miss Raina, they were drunk. They were looking for a fight. They turned the corner. They came back. And when they came back around, I said, we better get out of here, which shows he utilized wisdom. He said they chased him. So I have a couple issues with this, as I've found out since then that these kids have been terrorizing many races and ages of people.
Thank you.
I have an issue with them underage drinking. I feel like that's a huge problem that, yes, their parents probably do know about, because I know about my children and what they're getting into. If you're paying attention, which you should be, all the parents in here, and it seems that they have no remorse. And I was crying in here because
they don't have any remorse, but he's sitting there, him and his silly, let me just calm down. Him and his mother sitting up there talking about they forgive them. They didn't ask for your forgiveness, lady, nor your sons. They don't give a darn about you and your son, and they don't have any remorse. And then the police lied and said they were arrested when they were not. They were allowed to turn themselves in, and they were simply cited. Why aren't they being charged with a whole hate crime? But he wants justice to work the way it should, but it won't.
Because to know that this morning that young man said that he would murder my nephew, he's like my nephew. Hearing that is not okay. Shows there's no remorse. So I pray to God that we don't repeat what happened with Ronnie King. I pray to God, the only one who's in charge of all of this, that you all will make sure that you stand against what happened on Friday night as he left church. He got beat up that night.
See, that's the problem. He left church. That's why he's about all this forgiveness foolishness, because he thinks that's what God wants him to do. Honey, that's not what God wants you to do. Open your Bible and read it up. Okay, open your Bible and read it. Stop listening to what the pastor's telling you, because these pastors spew a lot of false narratives, specifically these pork chop pastors. Okay, at the end of the day of the Geechee is gone. Okay, the day of the Geechee is gone. I'm here to tell you. Okay, Leon said we can't forgive each other, but forgive everyone else. Okay, exactly. How dumb is that? Some of y'all won't forgive your own relatives if they owe you money that they never paid back. Some of y'all won't forgive somebody that you used to be friends with who may have double-crossed you, or you won't forgive somebody who told you a lie, or just did something you don't like, the person that looks like you, but you'll forgive everybody else. Please make yourselves make sense, honey. That's what I'm saying. This is nothing but brainwashed indoctrination, and I know some of y'all don't want to accept that, but it's the absolute truth, and I'm here to tell it to you, so pay attention.
With a statement, it was kind of like I don't want to say a press conference, but Prophetess Taryn Tarver Bishop held a community meeting at her church, which I 100% commend her for using her platform to do so. Michael Robinson said that he forgave the guys. His mom spoke about forgiveness. I saw it. I did post a video. I don't know why TikTok is not pushing it out. I guess TikTok is like, hey, we're not for the forgiveness right now. We need justice. And so that's to my point. I know in the Christian community, especially in the African-American Black Christian community, I know we're always taught to forgive, and I know that's what the Christian Bible speaks about and things like that. So nothing against forgiveness. However, what I will say is that in a time like this, and this is not about Michael, this is not about his mom, this is just this current situation going on, but the opinion that I'm going to state is in situations like this, the opinion that I'm stating is my opinion on situations like this every time they happen. For the most part, a lot of times Black people, especially Black Christians, they will speak about forgiveness. And, you know, even in the courts, I've seen people speak about forgiveness when other people of other races do things harmful to them. Oh, I forgive you, you know, God loves you, or they'll say something like that. And so my opinion on it is great. That's all fine. But I feel like that if the roles were reversed, you never really see people really see YT people doing these kind of things. Like if the roles were reversed in Michael's situation where it was 6-7 black people jumping on one white guy, then it would not be anybody saying, I forgive you. Or
it damn sure wouldn't, because think about this. Those people that jumped the guys in Cincinnati after they were hit first, one of them was hit first, where's the forgiveness for them? No, they're animals. They're thugs. Okay, they need to be sentenced to 30 years. That's how that goes. Okay, so miss me with it. And I ain't forgiving no damn body who didn't ask and who is not truly sorry, who shows no remorse. And then here's the thing. Now, one could say that, oh, they were drunk and maybe that's why they acted that way. No, they've been doing this. Are they drunk all the time? And what are they doing drinking where they're underage? And one of them's father's a whole cop. Second of all, the next thing is we all heard the recording because I played it for you all the other day where he was on the recording, the one of the ones who jumped Michael, talking about he would kill him. So somebody threatens your life and you forgive them. What a fool you are, and your mama is too. And I blame the mama for him being a fool, but let's continue.
Or God loves you, it would be like, no, those are thugs, they're hood, they don't belong in our area, and we're gonna get justice. It would be, they would be beat up in jail, would suffer so many consequences. So for me, I feel like we're so quick, even if we do forgive, I feel like it's such a thing in the Christian community to come out public and say it, and it's like it kind of, to me, it takes away from the action that they did, because we're so quick to forgive and we're so quick to say it. It's okay, you can forgive behind closed doors, we don't have to say it out loud, but I feel like it gives people an upper hand when they commit a crime, and this is people of any color.
This is all true, because the moment you start talking about that forgiveness BS, they get a less penalty, they get a less punishment because you're not that mad. And then they make the rest of us, like, for example, when there's been times when we have, well, not me because I don't protest, but when some of y'all have been out there protesting only for the black person to come out and say, oh, I forgive. And now y'all looking crazy. Or
whatever, it gives them kind of the upper hand when they commit a crime and you say you forgive them, and then justice still hasn't been served. None of these people that did this to Michael have been arrested. No justice has taken place, and I'll be at the community meeting. The community meeting is going to be on August 18th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Simi Valley City Hall, and I'll be there. I don't know if I'm going to speak yet, but I'm like, in the Christian community, even in just the black culture, it's always taught to forgive. And it's like, wait, pause, let justice get served, because we are forgiving people and nothing's happening to them. It gives them the upper hand because it's like, okay, they already forgave them, it's okay. But if those roles were reversed, boy, I tell you would not see no white people on no news, doing press conferences, doing anything saying they forgive anybody. And I'm not saying you got to go tit for tat, y'all, or tit for tat, however you say it. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, understand what I'm saying. It kind of gives an upper hand because it's like, oh, they already forgave, so justice doesn't need to be served. So for me, I'm still hoping that the Simi Valley PD and the city of Simi Valley, I hope that they would do the right thing and bring justice. I don't know in what way they're looking for justice, but this was a hate crime. And I even had people tell me, well, we don't know what happened before the video. Y'all, once again, if this was 6 black dudes jumping on one white person, y'all wouldn't be asking what happened before the video. I don't understand. Whatever happened before the video, it don't give 6 white guys or however many to jump on one black boy by itself. Y'all, I don't care what happened before the video. What we saw is what we...
I'm going to tell y'all what happened before the video. Before the video, Michael and his friends were walking from church, minding their own business. And one of his friends who was with him, these thugs previously had an issue with that person. So they started picking at that person. And then they saw Michael, who said, we need to get out of here. And so then they came at Michael, and Michael was between 2 cars. And he was about to be ambushed, and he knew it. So he ran and fled from between the 2 cars to try to escape. And they chased him down and they caught him. And we all know the rest. That's what happened beforehand. Now, funny thing is, nobody asked when the white people got jumped in Cincinnati. Nobody cared what happened before. And you see how that works, selective outrage. Remember, when we have seen police footage of the police taking out a person who looks like me, who was clearly unarmed or whatever, and then some of the people who don't look like me say, well, we don't know what happened before they started recording. Yeah, we don't, but we know what we saw. What was the outcome? Because no matter what happened prior to the recording, police officers are not supposed to be judge, jury, and executioner. The person's supposed to be arrested and taken to jail where they can have their day in court along with due process. Okay, so it's selective outrage. And like I said, when those people were jumped in Cincinnati, none of the people who don't look like me cared what happened at first. And in fact, many of them said, when we came out saying on social media that in fact the Caucasian man hit the black man first, they said, well, it really doesn't matter what happened first. That's what they said. Okay. So, but then when it's not convenient, then they want to know what happened first. Okay, but let's continue.
We saw, and that wasn't right, y'all. I mean, people be coming up with all kind of excuses, but once again, had it been the other way around, nobody would be questioning nothing. Nobody would be questioning nothing. You would have heard about it from the White House and all these other places. But because it's this, you ain't hearing nothing. No justice gonna be served. You know, these people got people in the police department and the city council, and all of these people are behind closed doors. So that's just my 2 cents in it. Yeah.
Okay, exactly. No lies detected. Now, here's the thing. So, just to reiterate what I was saying to the people in the back, like Michael, who thinks that we just have to forgive and he disagrees, and that's fine. But let's go to ChatGPT, because I just asked ChatGPT just to verify my points, and I'll put it up on the screen for all to see. Okay, I want you all to pay attention. And just keep in mind that some of the Bible has been mistranslated and some of it's been removed and all of that. So keep that in mind. But here's what it says. I typed in, does God command us to forgive? It says yes. In both the Bible's Old and New Testaments, God repeatedly commands and encourages forgiveness, not just as a suggestion, but as a moral obligation for believers. Well, that's funny because it also said something about an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth in the Old Testament. But anyway, here's what it says. The Old Testament God calls his people in the Old Testament to forgive, even though the full teaching becomes clearer in the New Testament. And they bring up Leviticus and Proverbs where it says, do not seek revenge or bear a grudge, but love your neighbor as yourself. Here's the thing. This is what I want y'all to pay attention, because some of y'all don't even know what y'all talking about when y'all read the Bible. When it says love your neighbor as yourself, some of y'all foolishly think, and I can't blame you because you've been indoctrinated, but I'm here to tell you the truth today. Some of y'all think that when they talk about love your neighbor as yourself, that they're talking about the neighbor that lives next door to you. No. They're talking about the people in your family. They're talking about the people in your family. Those are your neighbors, the people that are close to you, your relatives. Forgive them and love them as you love yourself. They're not talking about the person who lives next door. But let me continue. Now, here's what it further says. The command is not about ignoring wrongs or excusing evil. It's about releasing personal vengeance and entrusting justice to God. Forgiveness in Scripture is also compared with calls to pursue righteousness, protect the innocent, and confront sin when needed. So what does that say? What it says is this. If you want to forgive somebody and just to get it off your chest, because sometimes, in fact, the longer you carry a grudge, the heavier it gets. So forgiveness should be for yourself if you want to forgive, not for the other person, but so that you can get it off of your chest. But at the same time, you should want them to get back what they put out. That's how that goes. Now, with that all being said, it says, if you want, I can break down when forgiveness is commanded unconditionally versus when it's tied to repentance, because the Bible treats those slightly different. And that's what some of y'all Negroes that have been indoctrinated are confused. So let me say what I typed in next. Does God forgive everyone in the Bible? It says no. In the Bible, God does not forgive everyone. His forgiveness is always available, but it's conditional. In most passages, people must repent, turn to him, and accept his mercy. So here's what I said all that to say is this. If you want to forgive somebody, why would you forgive somebody who didn't ask for it? If they didn't apologize and show repentance, if they didn't ask you for your mercy, then why are you forgiving them? Because God don't even do that. Can I get an amen? But let me continue. And then it further goes on to say, here's a breakdown. God offers forgiveness to all. In Ezekiel 33:11, it says, God says he takes no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but wants them to turn from their ways and live. What does that mean? See, you don't forgive a person who has not shown repentance or remorse. You don't forgive a person who beats you down one day and threatens to kill you the next. That's what you don't do. Because if they even apologize, but their apology doesn't match their actions, because your actions are supposed to change. When you truly have repentance, you change from your wicked ways. And then God says to forgive. But if you don't change from your wicked ways, which many of the racist people who don't like people who look like me just because we look like me, at the end of the day, for centuries, them and their ancestors have not change from their wicked ways. Because we have people who look like me that are still being lynched, that are still being oppressed, and that are still going through injustices and inequality till this day. So has anybody changed from their wicked ways? Now, I'm not talking about all white folks, because there are some good white people out there. I know some of them. Pastor Dana Stevens is one. That reminds me, I need to call Pastor Dana Stevens. I need to have him on the show. But with that all being said, surely there are many people who don't look like me, who have not changed from their wicked ways, and they still have the same amount of disdain, angst, and hatred for us that their ancestors before them had for our ancestors. So to forgive them would be obtuse as far as I am concerned, and surely not what God has commanded of you. With that being said, it further goes on to say, the salvation is offered for whoever believes in him. The invitation is open. No sin is too great for his grace if someone repents. But that's the key word. And it's very important that you think about that at a time like this. Is there any repentance? Did they repent to Michael and his mother? Did they say that, oh, I'm so sorry. How dare I to have done such a nefarious thing? No, they didn't. They escalated it talking about murder. Okay. So God does not forgive those who reject him. Let's talk about this. Proverbs 28:13. He who conceals his sins does not prosper, but whoever confesses and renounces them finds mercy. Now, I can forgive you if you can change from your wicked ways, if you can repent of your sins, and you can say that I am so sorry that I did this to you and your people. See, these are the white kind of people that I can roll with, because they don't have to be like their ancestors, nor do they choose to. And I can definitely forgive them. But the ones who want to stay stuck on stupid and be divisive and be oppressive and hateful and all of that, I can't forgive them, and nor will I. Okay, nor will I, and neither should you. That's my opinion. Now, with that all being said, it also, and I want you to pay attention to this part, okay, when it says basically that God will forgive those who accept him, but he will not forgive those who reject him. Black people, I say to you, for the white people who accept you, then you can forgive them. But the ones who reject you, then you absolutely need not. And that's how that goes as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so please pay attention. At the end of the day, I'm going to show a few more of these TikToks with people speaking on this, and then we're out of here. Like, sub. And here we go.
And Jonah Collado, the son of Officer Collado, is allowed to just go freely. And he said he would do it again. He has no remorse. And just hearing about what happened at Regal sounded like something that was 100 years ago, but it happened 3 days ago. I deserve to feel safe in my city. Mike was just a friend of mine. This could have happened to me. And all those thugs, Jonah Collado, Hayden Davey, Maddox Westfall, Nathan Elkins, and Harper Trejos were let to go freely. Had they been black, they might have been or arrested instantly. Those boys committed a hate crime. One of the worst ones I've ever witnessed in my life. And they were allowed to go freely. And then you have the police make a statement, a lie, saying they arrested 4 juveniles. They only cited 3, and they were let go freely right away. And they turned themselves in. And Jonah Collado, the son of Officer Collado, is allowed to just go freely. And he said he would do it again. He has no remorse. Absolutely none. Those boys, I wouldn't even call them boys. They're thugs. They're monsters. Evil. Such evil people. And I can't believe we have the city just not protect us. No justice. Sad.
Okay. Absolutely, young man. I applaud him for saying it because it needed to be said. Okay. They have no remorse. They've shown no repentance. They've begged for no mercy. At the end of the day, they have not changed one bit. Okay. So why forgive them?
I've been called the N-word by white people so many times just because of my skin color. Hi, my name is Sky. And I just want to say that Mike is my friend and I've known him for so long. And the fact that somebody can do anything like this to him is crazy because he is one of the sweetest people I know. Me personally, walking to school, going to school, people have called me so many racial slurs, and just living and existing, I've been treated differently for so many times. Going anywhere I go, people are looking at me. I've been called the N-word by white people so many times just because of my skin color. My friend Mike is when I say he's one of the sweetest people I know, and for them to be threatening him and saying different things about him is not okay. And the fact that people are just sitting here and there are people joining in and hitting him and touching him is just not okay. And the fact the police was there and seen this and did nothing about this is crazy.
Yeah, I bet y'all didn't know that. I bet y'all didn't know that. Did y'all know the police was there? Did y'all know this? That they said there was police there, okay, and said that he was begging for help and nobody did anything? Did y'all know that? Yeah, that's right. Was a security guard who was supposedly a police officer, but didn't do a darn thing. Okay, I want y'all to marinate on that while we sit up here talking about forgiveness. Honey, it's okay to be forgiving of people who are repentant, like I said, who are going to change their actions, but it's not okay to be a fool, and that's what you are when you forgive anybody who didn't ask you for it and who didn't show you any remorse for what they did to you. Okay, please pay attention. All right, so that all being said, I'm about to be up out of here. Listen, I hope you all enjoyed the broadcast. Please like and share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, and it's up to you all to share these lives, honey, because like I told you all, when the Queen gets too pro-black on here, YouTube has a problem, and then they'll start shadow banning even more so, not sending out the notifications, okay, lying about the views and all of that. So they have done this a myriad of times, not just to me, but to other people who speak like me. Okay, with that all being said, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this day or this evening. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. And I will see you all in the morning for your morning wake-up call. Until next time, beloveds, peace.
One of Ahmadiyyah's son. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I won't always smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all in Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get mad. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on their necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regret, we only facing the threat. This is the sound of Eric Malcolm. It's a cut on the gas, other one on their necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threat. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of Ahmadiyyah's sons, they show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin?